I am the happy face killer. There is no doubt in my mind. No, I am him. I will come with a full confession on every victim that I have taken care of.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 4 of Our Killer Obsession with James and Crystal, your true crime connoisseurs. Welcome back, and if you're new here, thanks for joining us, and we truly hope that you hit that subscribe button before you leave. All right, today we have Keith Hunter Jesperson, aka the Happy Face Killer, and I only know a little bit about this one, so I'm probably going to learn a few things today.
Yeah, this was actually one of the very first serial killer true crime books I ever read, way back.
Yeah, I mean,
way back.
For those of you that don't know, she started her obsession, her killer obsession, a long time ago. I mean, we're talking, we're talking young.
Yeah, when we first got together, so we're talking over 22 years ago.
Yeah, so we kind of been watching a lot of documentaries and films and everything on serial killers since
for a
we
long
were
time.
Teenagers.
So we're gonna talk about the Happy Face Killer, Keith Hunter Jesperson. Like I said, one of the first serial killers I ever read about. He was an American serial killer from Canada, actually, but also lived in the Pacific Northwest. He killed 8 women in the early 90s. Sometimes he claims it's more than 150.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes he claims he's innocent.
Okay. All right.
We'll get into that too.
Okay.
Later. He was a long haul truck driver. Gave him a lot of opportunity to meet some people that he wouldn't normally meet, and alibis too, where he is and where he's been.
From here to there within hours.
Yeah, real quick. Keith's childhood sounds similar to the other people we've talked about. Born April 6, 1955 to Les and Gladys Jesperson in Chilliwack, British Columbia in Canada. His father was an abusive alcoholic. He was punished a lot in front of other kids, beat with belts, teased at school, also by his family, because he was always kind of like what we talked about with Ed Kemper. Real big kid all the time, real lumbery.
Right, just kind of stood out amongst the
uncoordinated.
crowd.
Yep, he actually picked up the nickname Igor.
Okay.
Called himself the black sheep of the family. He ended up 6'7", over 255 pounds.
Wow, that's big though.
That's a big old trucker.
That is big.
Right? Big scary truck driver. He was a shy kid though, played by himself a lot. Also, another thing we talk about with all the serial killers we talk about, he killed and tortured animals. By the age of 5, he had beat and strangled cats. He fantasized about what it would be like to do the same to women. Yeah, he was a bad student. He was violent. He got in trouble a lot at school, got suspended. He attacked a young boy named Martin, who was supposed to be his best friend at the age of 10. He said he just wanted to kill him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Around 11, he also attempted drowning another boy by holding him underwater until the kid blacked out.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so a troubled kid, and we see this with a lot of people we talk about. Troubled when they're kids and blame their parents. A lot of abusive relationships, bad moms, that type of thing. Not blaming all the moms out there, but
no.
it is a common trait we see.
I mean, I'm sure it don't help when, you're being abused by any of your loved ones. Yeah.
Especially really young. I think maybe that tweaks something in a kid's brain.
Definitely.
He was 20 when he married Rose. They had 3 children. And that's when he started long haul truck driving, and that led to a lot of cheating. So their marriage didn't last very long. 1990, he ended up divorced, and Rose ran off to Spokane, Washington with the kids. So they were separate.
Okay.
Did not live together. He didn't live anywhere near his kids for a while. So then, early 90s, he was fantasizing about what it would be like to keep a sex slave. He was lonely. He was in between jobs a lot. Not a lot of truck driving at the moment. He was bored, lonely. He did have a girlfriend named Peggy for a while. He actually lived in her apartment. But she left him for another long haul truck driver and was like co-driving with him.
Wow, okay.
So she was gone. He was alone. So one night he decided to go out to a bar, and he met Tanya Bennett at the bar. And he didn't know who she was at first. She was real flirty, very happy to meet everybody. It just ran up to him like she knew him and gave him a big old hug. And he was like, I don't even know this girl.
Right.
So she invited him over to play some pool with her and 2 other men. And he said he noticed, he looked around the table, nobody had any beers, and he felt like they were trolling for money for beers. Somebody to play with him, but like bring the rounds,
Yeah.
So he said, nah, I'm going home.
Okay.
So he left and went home. And he said while he was at home, he kept fantasizing about her and thinking about her and wanted to go back to get her. So he went back and seen her back at the bar and said, I want to take you out to dinner. So she said, sure. So she went out to his vehicle and said, oh, you know what, though? I left my money at home. So ride with me back to my house and we'll pick up the money. So she was like, sure, whatever. So they go back to the house and he says, well, just come on in real quick and we'll get the money or whatever. Well, once she gets inside, plans change real quick. So he attacks her. She tries to get away. Eventually she stops fighting back, though, and she says, hurry up and just get this over with so you can take me to dinner.
Oh, my goodness.
So he has this in his mindset where women are users. He's like, she's going to let me do this to her, and she just wants me to take her to dinner. She wants something out of this.
Right.
Right? And he says he's sick of paying in full. He's sick of having to give to receive, apparently.
Wow, okay.
And he says, I don't have to take this anymore. So he decided he was going to just end it there. And he was done with it. And this is what he's been fantasizing about for a long time. So he said, I punched her until I could not recognize her face. And then I punched her some more.
Oh, my gosh.
He said he had punched her so much, her teeth broke through her lips. And you couldn't recognize her face anymore. And then he strangled her until she was dead, after he had taken advantage of her sexually first. So he ended up dumping her off of a ravine, off of a highway, like a scenic route up there, Oregon. And he went back to the same bar that he picked her up at to kind of establish an alibi. So he just sat there, had a couple beers all in the same night.
Okay, so you could be like, well, I've been here all night. Ask so-and-so. He's seen me around this time, and I was still there at this time. Like, okay.
Yeah. Yep. So he's trying to establish an alibi.
Gotcha.
And crazy story. There was an anonymous call to police stating that this woman knew who killed Tanya. She said she was at a bar and heard a man named John Sanaski admit to killing her.
Okay.
Well, it turns out it was his girlfriend calling in the tip.
Oh, John's girlfriend?
Yeah, her name is Laverne Pavlinac.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah, this is a couple of crazy weirdos here. So she called the police, said that, okay, it was my boyfriend, did it, whatever. So they're like, well, wear a wire and have him confess to it or whatever. She did wear a wire, but he never said anything, obviously because he didn't do it. But they didn't know this at the time. So this goes even further.
Oh, no.
So she says on January 21st, that's the night that Tanya was taken, she said John called her and said he was in big trouble and to meet her at a truck stop in Troutdale, Oregon. So she said when she got there, he had Tanya wrapped in a sheet in between semis. And she thought that she was already dead. So they rolled her in a shower curtain and supposedly disposed of her in the Columbia River Gorge. And that is where she was dumped. So eventually the cops are like, take me to where it was. And she did. She took the cops, kind of pointed out.
Oh, to the actual spot?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now how'd she...
So, we'll get to that.
My goodness.
Yeah. So they arrested John. There's really no evidence to prove any of this other than what she's saying.
Okay.
They're not finding any traces of this woman in their car. There's no blood. There's nothing. There's no shower curtain. There's no evidence. Well, eventually, Laverne altered her story. She said, actually, that Tanya was still alive. And on their way up to the gorge to dump the body, they stopped off at a travel center stop or whatever and took the body into the travel center bathroom. She was still alive, and that John asked her to wrap a rope around Tanya's head and pull while he raped her.
Okay.
So this is what Laverne is saying. This all happened.
Okay.
That she helped kill this woman while her boyfriend raped her.
Wow. Okay. And now,
then she died.
We all know, obviously, it's not
That's
true,
not what happened. So this woman, when you see pictures of her, she seems like an elderly grandmotherly type.
Okay.
So some definite mental psychosis here.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So in January 1991, they had a trial for Laverne and John, and she recanted everything. She said, I just started lying and it snowballed on me. So she just kept going with the lies.
But she waited to say that she
until
was
they're in trial.
My goodness.
Right. But get this, mid-trial, they find graffiti in a public bathroom that states, I killed Tanya Bennett, January 21st, 1990 in Portland, Oregon. I beat her to death, raped her, and I loved it. Yes, I'm sick, but I enjoy myself too. People took the blame, and I'm free.
No.
Now, the cops had this information, but they took it at no face value. They thought it was fake.
Just somebody.
I think really they just wanted to pin this
just
murder on
kind of
somebody
close the case
and be done with it.
Wow.
They were both sentenced to life in prison.
Oh my goodness.
And which we know now they definitely didn't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With nothing but her story.
Just her story.
Apparently. Oh,
well,
my
and
goodness.
she was able
to somehow lead him to the body
right
and where
place.
she was dumped.
Yeah.
Wow. Which I'm just assuming was what? Just pure luck?
No.
Oh,
so
no.
They asked later, because obviously they think she did it, and they don't know that she had a trick to find out about where it was.
Okay.
So at first she told them that it was the mile marker on the speedometer when they were driving, that she took it as she knew the body was found like so many miles up the road, whatever. So she was trying to watch and kind of guess. And then she said, no, that wasn't the true. Actually, it was crime scene paint.
Okay.
And she had seen it on the trees. And she said, okay, about here when she's seen the crime scene paint.
Oh.
So it's either one of those, who knows? Because she's such a liar. She's saying so many different stories.
Wow.
But there's some way she kind of guessed the right general area.
Okay. Holy cow.
Yeah, just dumb luck, I guess.
Wow.
Or bad luck.
Bad. Yeah, I don't know what you want to call it in her circumstance. Seems how you're trying to set yourself and your boyfriend up. Or
Yeah,
wow, man, it's so weird.
Well, she did say too later that John was abusive to her and her kids, and
Okay.
so maybe it was like a spiteful situation.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So later, Keith picks up Dawn Reichert Slagle. She is a single mother hitchhiking down the road, and she has her baby with her, and so he offers to pick her up, and she's wasted, apparently drunk, breastfeeding her baby in front of this big trucker guy, and he's like, "Hey." Like takes it as a come on or whatever.
No.
Yeah. So she puts her baby in the back seat and offers him a BJ.
Oh my gosh.
Right. So he's like, what kind of woman is
I
this
mean,
gonna...
yeah, there's a lot going on here. There's a drunk woman breastfeeding a baby, which we know you should not do.
Right.
So now you have a drunk woman, a drunk baby, and a trucker that's like, hey,
Yeah.
she's
And then
hitting
so
on me.
she's like, maybe it's like follow the rules of the road. You got to pay for this ride.
Goodness.
So anyway, so she decides that that's what she's doing. But then in the middle of it, she changes her mind and she doesn't want to continue with the fellatio.
Okay.
So he gets mad and he tries to like make her do it.
Oh.
And so he says he grabbed her in like a headlock and pulled and was trying to actually break her neck,
No.
but it didn't work. So she started freaking out and stuff. So actually he just let her go.
Okay.
He dropped her and the baby off and just said, go.
Wow.
So she got away, but this comes back later.
Oh, okay. So I was about to say, wow, what a lucky woman.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. She survived being
Wow,
attacked by
okay.
the happy face killer.
Right.
And we come to a Jane Doe that Keith referred to as Claudia. He picked her up in Blythe, California, and offered her a ride. And he said that he tried to kiss her, and she said, if you want sex, just ask for it, and I'll tell you how much.
Oh.
But he said, I don't pay for it. And then he attacked her.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because he said earlier too, like I'm sick and tired of paying in full. Like I'm just gonna start basically
doing what I
taking
want.
yeah.
Exactly.
Oh.
So in the midst of this assault, she pretended to like it and
Okay.
started going with it,
Try to
probably to stay safe and try to
Yeah.
save her life.
right.
They stop at a truck stop, and instead of getting out and leaving, she stayed with him.
Really?
Yeah, and he said he went into the bathroom and came out, and she was on the CB radio, like calling out to other truckers for drugs.
Oh.
And for he has some high morals
Not
here.
for help though.
No,
but-
no, for drugs.
Oh my
And he is so anti-drug, not anti-murder or rape.
Wow.
He has some high morals here. He's like, absolutely no drugs.
Oh.
Well, she says, drugs are money, or I'm going to turn you in for rape.
Oh wow. Okay.
So what's it going to be, money or jail?
And he's like, you have no idea what it's gonna be.
Right? So he said, absolutely not. So he taped her up and knocked her out.
Oh man.
She woke up screaming. So for hours, he assaulted this woman sexually, and he did what he called the death game. So it's where he would choke a woman till she's unconscious, but not until she died, and then let her wake up in this fear and panic and do it multiple times
Man.
until finally she just stopped breathing.
Oh my
That's what the death
goodness.
game is.
That's terrible.
Right. After she finally passed, he threw her into a canyon and covered her in tumbleweeds. He said she deserved to die for threatening me.
Oh my goodness. Oh
yeah.
man.
He acts like women. He has a very misogynistic attitude towards women.
Uh,
You know, they all want something.
Yeah,
They all want
yeah.
something from him. They all owe him
right.
something.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah. He said he became obsessed with raping and killing women after that.
Wow.
That was his major fantasy, and he would think about it all the time.
Almost like a drug then. Once
Yeah.
you got a little hit of that, it was like on now.
Yep.
Wow.
So that was all around 1990, 1991. So now in September of 1992, at a truck stop in Turlock, California, he was trying to go to sleep in his truck. He said everything was shut down. He was just resting. And a girl jumped up on the side of the cab, popped in his window, and offered to party. So
okay.
he reached out and fondled her a little bit.
Okay. Okay.
And he said no. And she said, well, why'd you feel me up then if you're going to say no? And he said to make sure you weren't a cop.
Oh my goodness.
Right. So she left and he went back to the bed bunk of, they call it a coffin, but yeah,
Okay,
yeah, very appropriate.
Yeah.
But he went into the bunk of his cab and went to sleep.
Okay.
Well, in the middle of the night, he woke up startled, someone jumping into his truck, and it was this woman.
The same girl?
Yeah, and he
Okay.
woke up instantly thinking something was wrong, being attacked, and he choked her out instantly,
Oh
killed
my
her.
goodness. Wow.
And he was like, well, that was a waste.
Oh. my
He didn't get to play the death game
goodness.
with her.
Oh,
He didn't get to do
no.
anything to her.
Wow.
Yep. So he took her body and drove off and discarded her near a garbage pile.
Wow.
Just threw her away like trash.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Holy cow. We all know of the, they call them lot lizards.
Yeah, yep.
In truck stops. So she was probably, unfortunately, that kind, it sounds like.
It sounds
was
like
just
that's
trying to hustle up some
mostly
money.
what he picked up were girls that I don't want to say easily discarded, but nobody's really looking for them.
Right. They're kind
you
of
know?
living that loner life, the rough life,
Yeah.
the nobody's really missing me right now life because they know I'm on a terrible path life.
Exactly.
And yeah, easy victim life.
Yeah. You'll see
Wow.
that too with the women that he's picked up. They're all
Terrible.
those
That
kind
seems
of
to
women.
happen a lot though in serial killers in general, you know, or kidnapping cases or anything like, you know, where they're taking people. It always seems to be someone that's already on a rough path.
Exactly. Somebody that's not really going to be missed.
Yeah.
Easy to get away with it.
Terrible.
So then he later picks up a prostitute named Lori Ann Pentland in Portland, Oregon, and she agreed to have consensual sex with him for $40. And he said they went on about this for over an hour. And when it was done, she said, well, that took too dang long.
Yeah.
So now she wants double her money. And we know how he feels about women
Oh,
and
yeah.
wanting everything from him. And he acts like they're all out to get something. So he said he felt wronged and used again.
Oh my gosh.
So this time he attacked her and he played the death game with her for over an hour.
Oh, wow. How
Yep.
terrifying.
And just letting her wake up and scream and realize what's going on. Doing it again and again.
Jeez, poor girl, man. How terrifying.
He took her body all the way to Salem, Oregon, and dumped her near some dumpsters and covered her with leaves.
And see, that's another thing too. Him being a trucker, you could pick a girl up, you know, on the streets in one state, and then
Be
you
gone.
can drive for 8 hours, and you can be sometimes
Two
three
states
states away, and then you dump that girl there. That state is gonna find her like, who in the hell is this? They may
Exactly.
never identify that poor girl.
And a lot of times back in the day, like we know with the Ted Bundy case too, states didn't talk to each other
Yeah,
back
right.
then. There wasn't like a centralized,
Right. Yeah.
you know,
Yep.
so.
Wow. Terrible.
Later that year, a homeless woman, another Jane Doe that he called Cindy, he picked her up in Santanella, California. He said he was at a diner and he noticed this little thing looking like a wet rat at the end of the bar, you know, waiting for someone to buy her a meal, and she just looked terrible. So he bought her dinner. I don't know if he was actually being nice or not, but
Right.
she ended up asking for a ride to her sister's in Sacramento, California.
Wrong
And
person to ask for a ride.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he obliged. He said sure. And she actually acted like she liked him. She
Wow.
wanted to stay with him. She wanted to ride with him. They had consensual sex multiple times. And after that, she said, he was like, it's time to get rolling. And she was like, I just want to cuddle.
Oh, wow.
Let's cuddle back here in your bunk.
Uh-huh.
And he said, oh, we're going to be back here, but I'm going to kill you.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. He actually told
No.
her.
Oh wow.
So then he assaulted her and played the death game with her and then left her on a pile of rocks and thick brush.
Wow.
Yep. She was actually identified later in 2009
Oh, wow.
as a woman named Patricia Skipple.
Holy cow.
Yep. So then, you know, he's a long haul trucker. So he ends up in Florida later. And then we got another Jane Doe that he called Susan. These are all people that nobody's ever claimed except for later, the other one.
Right. Well, I mean, and then now he's clear across the country.
Yeah.
Clear across the country.
Yeah, not Washington or Oregon. He's in Florida.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Picked her up at a truck stop in Crestview, Florida. Said she wanted a ride to Nevada. She had been fighting with her boyfriend. He told her that he wanted her to make love to him like we are lovers. She wasn't into him, but he took it anyway, and he wanted her to pretend like she liked it. So she did. Again, I think to protect herself, you know, try to save her own life. So then she faked like she was sleeping afterwards, and he knew she was faking her sleeping. She attempted to run, and he grabbed her up, played the death game with her, and then dumped her later.
Wow, how terrifying, though, that you know something's up and you gotta fake like you're sleeping and everything that's happening.
How
And just
scary.
like, that's how terrible.
And how terrible that, you know, these people put themselves in such a vulnerable position. It's a hard life to live.
Yeah, really is.
In 1994, he wrote a letter to the Oregonian. He left 2 graffitis, and those people were in jail. Nothing ever came out of it. Nothing was in the papers, and he's like, what the heck, you know? He wanted some more notoriety, I guess. Like other people we've talked about, just like BTK.
It happens, yeah.
They want to hear about it in the papers. They want people to know that they're responsible for these things. So he wrote the paper. I would like to tell my story. I'm a good person. I have been married and divorced with children. I didn't really want to be married, but it happened. I have read your paper, enjoyed it a lot. I have always wanted to be noticed, like Paul Harvey, front page, etc. So I started something I don't know how to stop. On around January 20th, 1990, I picked up Tanya Bennett and took her home. I raped her and hurt her real bad. Her face was all broke up. Then I ended her by pushing my fist in her throat. This turned me on. I got a high, then panic set in. Where to put the body? I drove out to the Sandy River and threw her purse and Walkman away, and I drove the scenic road past the falls. I went back home and dragged her out to the car. I want you to know that this was my crime. So I tied a 1/2-inch soft white rope cut on one end and burned on the other around her neck. I drove to Switchback on the scenic road about 1.5 east of Lateral Falls. Dragged her downhill. Her pants were around her knees because I had cut the buttons off. They found her the next day. I wanted her to be found. I felt real bad and afraid I would be caught. But a man and a woman got blamed for it. My conscience is getting me now. She was my first, and I thought I would not do it again, but I was wrong.
Wow.
Yeah, so he sent that to the newspaper.
That's crazy, dude. That's crazy.
But still no response.
Oh, my goodness.
So he wrote another letter.
Oh, no.
When they don't get what they want, they just keep going.
Right. And which is, you know, wild, too, I guess. And I don't know, kind of rare, you know, that a news station wouldn't take some kind of news like this and just run with it anyway and say we're contacted by, you know, said serial killer or whatever. And,
right.
you know, they just instead this time just kept pushing it aside like it wasn't nothing.
And I think they still wanted Laverne and John to be the ones.
Well, yeah, that's
because
true
they were
too,
already
'cause we
convicted
already
and
have
in
people
jail.
that are like,
Yeah, so this is going to dredge up a whole nother situation.
Wow.
So he wrote them again. This time he wrote, my last victim was a street person. It was raining in Corning, California. She was wet and I offered a ride to Sacramento, California. I stopped at a rest area near Williams and had her. I put her body on or near a pile of rocks about 50 yards north of Highway 152 westbound, about 20 miles from Santa Nella, California. It was getting hard to trust my inner self. I kept arguing with my conscience. I had to get away from long-haul trucking. Victims are so easily found. So I quit and found a good job driving where I'm in the public eye and out of harm's way. The truck has a bold name on the side so easily recognized. I got away from what became easy. I do not want to kill again, and I want to protect my family from grief. I would tear it apart. I feel bad, but I will not turn myself in. I'm not stupid. I do know what would happen to me if I did. In a lot of opinions, I should be killed, and I feel I deserve it. My responsibility is mine, and God will be my judge when I die. I'm telling you this because I will be responsible for these crimes and no one else. It all started when I wondered what it would be like to kill someone, and I found out. What a nightmare it has been. I had sent a letter to Washington County Judge's Criminal Court taking responsibility to the number 1, the Bennett murder, but nothing has been in your paper. This freedom of press, you have the ball. I will be reading to find out. I used gloves and some paper as the last letter, no prints. Look over your shoulder, I may be closer than you think.
Mm.
And he signed it with a happy face.
Oh, man. But did he finally get some attention off this letter? Like, did they finally?
Not yet.
Oh, my goodness.
Nope.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't really think a whole lot came out of it until later.
That's crazy. And you're giving all these details about murders that you've done and are doing, regardless if somebody's already been convicted. You got to take this serious because they're giving out
Tons of
information and details that only
And
their
now-
killer would know, right?
And this one, he's talking about that poor Jane Doe in California.
Yeah, new girl.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
So in January of 1995, he met Angela Sabrise. They actually liked each other. They went to a hotel for consensual sex, and she wanted to travel with him. And he agreed to it. They were
Oh, wow.
going to be a couple.
Okay.
But then he overheard her on a payphone talking with her ex-boyfriend and kind of making up. So she was going to try and use him for a ride to Indiana to get back to her boyfriend.
Oh, no.
So he knew this. But he agreed. He said, fine, I'll take you to Indiana. But it was a really long drive and he was really tired. He said he needed just like 4 or 5 hours of sleep before they kept going. But she wouldn't let him sleep. Supposedly, this is from what he was saying. That she kept like, no, let's go. No more sleep. We got to go. We got to get out of here. And he had had enough. So he attacked her.
Wow.
He tied her up, assaulted her. But then in the middle of the assault, she pretended to make love to him. I love you, you know, I want to be with you, not
Trying to
this
maybe
other
do
guy.
some kind of reverse psychology on him.
Exactly.
Okay.
And she had pepper spray in her purse.
Oh.
So she attempted to grab it.
Oh.
And he said, are you going for your pepper spray?
Oh, no. He already knew it was
he
there.
knew it was there and took it
Oh,
and
no.
hid it. Yep.
Oh, no.
So she never could
So
get
even
it.
if she got there, it wasn't there. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Yep. So she had protection, but he was one step ahead.
Wow.
Yep. And he played the death game with her for a long period of time, again, until she died. But this time, this is the worst part. He wanted her unidentifiable.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So he tied her. First of all, he tied her hands in front like this, palms up, and then tied her to the undercarriage of his truck.
Oh, no.
Face down, hands down,
Oh, goodness.
and drove
Oh, goodness.
until there was nothing really left of her.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. That's something there. Oh, my goodness.
That was in Nebraska.
Holy cow. Wow. What a horrible, horrible way to dispose of somebody. Wow.
Yeah, terrible.
I mean, I guess disposing of somebody, period, is horrible, but like.
At all. But yeah, that was the
Jeez.
worst one. I remember that was what really shocked me when I first read about him.
Yeah, because that's something you don't hear about. And then I mean, come on, when you hear all this stuff, you visualize,
Yeah,
you get your
and
own,
that's
you draw your
really
own pictures
graphic,
and stuff. And like,
yeah. So back in 1994, we're going a year earlier,
okay.
in Troutdale, Oregon, he met a woman named Julie Winningham. They actually dated for a while. She used to be a street lady,
Okay.
woman of the night,
Okay.
drinker, partier, had trouble with the law here and there, whatever. They were dating. He took her to a carnival. He actually like dated her, like legit dated her. Bought her some kind of crappy carnival jewelry, but he thought it meant something, you know?
Right. Okay.
And he said she was a lousy lover. Like, she gave it to him consensually, but he was like, it's not good enough. Like, this sucks. After I spent all that money on these dates
Oh, no.
and this
So
jewelry.
He's getting robbed again.
Exactly.
Like,
So he's putting out all this money for these dates and not getting what he wants.
wow.
So they dated on and off here or there, but they ended up stopped seeing each other for a while, and he was back on the road.
Okay.
But now we're back to March 1995, and he sees her in like a restaurant or something again.
No.
So they start seeing each other again.
No.
You know, back to their old thing, you know, and this time he really thinks he loves her. Like, he thinks this is the one.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. And she proposes to him.
She proposed to him?
Yeah.
Wow.
And he said, sure.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
And he actually even met her mom.
Oh.
And they'd only
my
been together
goodness.
this time for like a week. So this is going
Oh,
really
that's
fast
crazy.
this time.
Wow.
Yeah. And she told him right after they got engaged, she's having trouble with the law and she needs some money.
Oh,
get out of
no.
trouble.
So now he feels used.
Exactly.
and-
She needs like $700 to get out of this trouble and stay out of jail. And he's like, he knew what was coming. She's like, well, this is what engaged people do.
Oh,
They help each other, and you're supposed to help
Oh,
me.
no.
And he said, no, Like, I don't have that kind of money to give you, and that's not what I'm here for. Is this all you want? And she said, you either give me the money or I'm going to tell the cops you raped me.
Oh,
This is all according to
no.
him. Now.
Right.
It's all allegedly. But
Right.
he said, nah, you know how he feels about that. Don't threaten me. And don't try to take my money. So he attacked her. He assaulted her. He played the death game with her multiple times. Then assaulted her again and played the death game some more. So this went on for a really long time,
my
on and off,
goodness.
torturing this poor woman.
Wow.
And then he dumped her off the Columbia River Gorge Highway, around the same area that he dumped Tanya Bennett.
My goodness.
But now many people saw him with her.
Okay.
Mom
right.
knew
Right.
that they were
right.
together, you
Right.
know, and they had met other friends out to dinner, whatever. So when she went missing, he also went missing. He, long haul truck driver, he was gone.
Disappeared.
Driving, working,
Right.
you know?
Okay. Yeah.
So people were like, where is she? So he's headed back to New Mexico from the East Coast. And his boss says, you know what? Why don't you stay at that next stop? And he's like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, usually your boss is like, hurry up, keep going,
Right.
keep going,
yeah,
keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially in trucking, you know, miles and time is
Yeah.
it's money.
So he's like, this is really weird. So, of course it was weird. The cops are there waiting for him when he gets
so the
there.
boss was trying to tip him off, like, hey, don't come back.
No,
There's somebody
he
waiting.
said, nope. He says, take your time in New Mexico. Stop there.
Oh,
Because the cops are coming to get him.
Go to New Mexico to
And
get
get
him.
him.
Got you.
Yep. So they came to get him. They picked him up to question him about the murder of Julie. And they said when they started asking him, he never asked how she died. He never asked what happened. He was like, they were like, isn't this your
Yeah,
fiance?
yeah, that's a little sussy, you know,
Yeah.
like you
Never
have
asked.
questions.
So then they said, you never even asked how she died. So he was like, okay, so how did she die?
No, like,
You know,
all right,
like,
well, let me go
well,
ahead and
might as well
appease you.
ask it. Right. Well, they didn't really have anything to hold him, so they let him go.
Oh, man.
So that night, he's like, it's over for me, right? So he attempted suicide one night by taking a bottle of Tylenol and a whole bunch of Sudafed. Now you got to think too. He's like almost 300 pounds and he's 6'7". It's going to take a shit ton of Tylenol.
I mean,
to
like
kill
a
somebody.
metric shit ton.
A metric shit ton. He woke up kind of drunk feeling and in a pool of his own puke. So he felt like a failure.
Well, yeah, I'm sure at the most, like, what, the Sudafed made him go to sleep for a while?
That's
like,
exactly
you got
what
some really
happened.
good sleep?
That's exactly what happened.
Wow.
So the next day, he woke up, went to a restaurant, had a steak dinner, and he's like, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to eat a steak dinner, and I'm going to go back to my truck, and I'm going to take a bunch of pills again, and this is going to be the end this time.
No.
So he's eating his dinner, and he takes off his crappy gold necklace and gives it to a waitress as a tip. And she's like, what the heck? And he said, I won't need this where I'm going.
Oh, my goodness.
Real dramatic,
Yeah.
you know. But he failed again at taking all these pills. So he wrote his brother a letter. It says, 3/24/95. Hi, Brad. Seems like my luck has run out. I will never be able to enjoy life on the outside again. I got into a bad situation and got caught up with emotion. I killed a woman in my truck during an argument. With all the evidence against me, it looks like I'm truly a black sheep. The court will appoint me my lawyer, and there will be a trial. I am sure they will kill me for this. I am sorry for that I turned out this way. I have been a killer for 5 years. I have killed 8 people, assaulted more. I guess I haven't learned anything. Dad always worried about me. Because of what I have gone through in the divorce, finances, etc. I have been taking it out on different people. We pay so much of child support. As I saw it, I was hoping they would catch me. I took 48 sleeping pills last night and woke up well rested. The night before, I took 2 bottles of pills to no avail. They will arrest me today. Keith.
Wow.
So that's exactly what you said. He woke up well rested because he didn't.
I mean, come on.
He didn't do anything.
A bunch of Tylenol and Sudafed. Yeah, good night.
Right?
you
Good night.
know. Yeah. And now, but this is wild. So he legitly sent a confession letter,
To
not
his
to just
brother.
anybody, to his brother.
His own brother.
His own brother.
Yeah.
So
he
that's
really
pretty
thought,
serious.
Yeah, he really thought he was about to get arrested right now.
Yeah.
So he's like, you know what? He's driving along and he sees this mountain. He's like, one more time. I'm going to climb this mountain and I'm just going to freeze myself to death. So he hikes. He parks his truck. He hikes up this mountain and he's sitting up there and he's freezing and he just chickens out.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So he turns
Wow.
back around, goes back down and calls Detective Rick Buckner. And he confesses.
Man.
He confesses to killing Julie.
Wow. You guy's man enough to take lives, but he ain't man enough to sit through some cold, huh?
Right.
Jeez.
Yep. He can't kill himself no matter how he tries.
Right, yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
So while he was in jail, he did call his brother and asked him to burn the letter. And his brother said, Dad made me turn it in.
Oh.
So the cops have the letter.
Well, wow.
Yep.
Well, good.
Yep. So then he took a stance like, all right, he's going to make the cops look like they did a terrible job. And obviously Laverne and John didn't do it. He wanted to embarrass law enforcement, so he started really being kind of a showboater with the media and stuff.
Okay.
He was mad that they didn't say anything about the graffiti. He tried to make it seem like you ignored me. This is obvious I did it this whole time.
Tried to tell you.
Yeah.
Tried to write letter after letter. Like.
Yep. So then Pavlinac and John started chiming in too and saying, like, it wasn't us,
Okay.
Obviously.
So now you guys had a taste of this prison life.
Right.
And now you're like,
and now they're
made
hearing,
a mistake.
Yep. And they're hearing Keith say it was actually me. And they're like,
now this is my chance.
Exactly. So that's when Pavlinac also said how she found the spot where, because they're like, well, then how'd you know?
Right. Right.
So the crime scene spray.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So she just went on a whim, got lucky, seen their taggings and where they're marking evidence and stuff, and it was like, oh, right here.
Yeah. So then he
Wow.
started acting real crazy in jail, and he wanted to like muddy the waters for everybody. So he wrote letters to a bunch of papers. He started admitting to other murders to inmates and having them tell the cops. And like I said, he would say it was 150 women that he killed, or he was completely innocent. He drew elaborate maps in his cell of where the bodies were, where they could be found. Like I said, he claimed up to 150 women. He started a website with a pen pal. This is back in AOL days, right?
Okay.
And he started a website that offered self-start serial killer kits
Oh no.
and blow-up dolls of murdered women.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. He also tried to claim, after he said it's not Laverne and John, it was all me, he tried to say that Laverne and John paid him $20,000 to take the blame.
No.
Right. And then he had like a big following because it was AOL. It was all new. You could start getting pen pals.
Right.
And,
Okay.
following these people. This is like when it all really started to blow up. He started bragging that he was internet famous.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he was really grandiose about it.
Wow. So really, he's just trying to play games.
Yep.
In whatever aspect he can to throw things off and just make it a
Exactly.
big old cluster.
Yep. Just make it a big old circus.
Wow.
Yep. So now you never really know what he says, if it's true or not.
Right. I believe the letter to the brother.
Yeah.
I believe the letter to the brother because, he tried to take his own life and then really thought he was caught, hemmed up, and he's going to jail. It's over, so I'm going to confess to my
Exactly.
brother. I believe that
He was like at his wit's end.
5 or
right
8
there.
or whatever, but
150?
150, yeah, I don't buy that, man.
No,
You'd have
me
to be
neither.
pretty active in them years.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
He ended up being convicted of 3 murders. He received 3 life sentences. And then in 2009, when Jane Doe, the one he referred to as Cindy, was identified as Patricia Skipple, he was extradited to California to stand trial, and he was convicted and sentenced for a 4th life sentence in 2010.
Wow. Okay. Wow. And he's middle-aged, right? When he went in, young,
Yeah, 40-ish.
middle-aged, right? Okay, yeah. So he needs all the life sentences he can get to make sure he stays in there.
I mean, I don't think they would parole him. He's a
Well, no, yeah,
pretty
that's true,
dangerous
but
guy.
I guess you never know. Look at the things that Kemper got himself out of when he was going through his
That's true.
things. So I
That's
mean,
true.
you never really know when your fate is in the hands of other people. You never know what
That's
they're gonna
true.
do, man.
That's the story of Keith for us. Another one that just blew my mind.
That's a good one. And I remember, too, after you were reading books or watched a movie or something when we were younger. I worked for the city at the time, and I was driving like a plow truck at night, and I seen this water truck go by, and it had like a big old smiley face painted on the back of it, as a decoration
Yeah.
to kind of keep people back and smile, right? And I remember looking at that like, I looked at it, the smiley face in a whole
completely
other way.
That's the same way I feel about semi trucks now. Every
Yeah.
time I see semi trucks, ever since I read the story back in the day, I think, who could be in that truck? You got a girl tied up in there? Like, oh, that's a dangerous truck. Every time. If they have a bed bunk, I'm like, forget it. It's dangerous.
All right, that's going to do it for this one, guys. We appreciate you being here with us as always. That is a wrap for episode 4. And we hope you hit that like and subscribe button on your way out of here. Leave us some comments. If you have anybody you'd like us to talk about in the future, leave it down
Definitely.
there. Give us some suggestions.
All right. We'll see you next week.